said at the last meeting, okay, I know the hours they're putting in, I know the people that's working for them, and I don't think they're asking too much. These prices right here, the hourly rates, if we didn't go for the 75,000, then I take it you would be charging these hourly rates. So we as a council, we have an option. We can gamble that these hourly rates would not come up to 75,000, or we could think they would possibly come up to more, but we do have an option. We can go with the hourly rates, and you have to justify the hours that you work, and we can pay more. But I feel like you earn another 75,000 by what we've accomplished since you came aboard. The progress is, you've got more committees, we've got more in the works, and everything we've got in the works is going to make this town a better place to live in.
Okay, right. Well, basically, the way I see it is that, it all boils down to how expedient do we want, items that we want done to get up, if we want them to be done within a certain time frame. If we're willing to wait on the majority of items, we could leave it as is, and we can take a year or so to get to a lot of our agenda items that we're trying to accomplish. Or we can grant additional hours to get stuff done. I'm in favor of getting moving forward and trying to get a lot of these projects going soon. So I'd be more inclined to go forward and go from there. So.
Okay, Jim?
By way of maybe reiterating, and just some people caught repeating what I said before, part of what I would expect Mike to be doing, he's already going to embark on some kind of fee schedule with the idea of recovery. Working through the day-to-day events, trying to also trim down the effort that you're or where you are locked into something or cornered on something, to get out of that. I think what comes to mind is British Hay, that maybe if we had given you some instruction beforehand as to when something like this comes up, you are to cut it off at some reasonable time, not 5 minutes, but not 20 hours. So with that in mind, I think you might have the council's agreement that that was way too much of your time. But you had no guidance. I'm sure you were working through, providing service, and I'm going to do what I can. So the other thing might be that, so again, part of this is, here's the position, so it covers what you're doing. But let's see what we can do, at the same time, is not to lose sight of, I have the wall to find a way to recover if we can, where we can identify the few that are causing the increase in service as best we can. Maybe something along the line, when you have somebody come in, Steve has a handout that says, these kinds of questions, here's the website. And at the same time, in the process that you're following, is if we have to spend, maybe on the front end of that, what's your question? Well, if we have to do this, or this, we'll have, there's possibly going to be a fee. Or we try to limit those discussions and say it up front. We're trying to limit those discussions to avoid you paying a fee to something. And I don't know if it's a half hour or what it might be. So in conjunction with adding a position, I think you need to work it, and you're the manager, so the persons that you have do this service, I would ask them where they can identify where we can cut back on.
Let me, if I can, just take a minute and digress. I want to tell you about today, because today was a very interesting situation. It started off, we had a special magistrate meeting at 10 o'clock. And I had to be there because we had 2 cases. And in both cases, the code enforcement staff was looking for town management to assist in making the decision in front of the special magistrate. And one of the things we established in that meeting, there was a lot of talk about administrative costs, and I made it very clear to both the code and to the special magistrate that we're seeking to get administrative costs in every matter. You know, we have an opinion letter from the special magistrate that can't be applied. We're going to talk about that in the future at FAAC and at council. But there's no reason why we can't always charge administrative costs. So I try to make that clear. One of those cases is an entity called Valley Crest on the Chili Bowl. And one of the things they had to do in part of traffic and compliance is they need a site. Now that's happening under cost recovery. There's inflation and money for it. But I had to go from special magistrate to the IGC meeting today, and that meeting was at 1 o'clock. It wasn't clear if we were going to have a code enforcement representative up there. So we needed to have either a code representative or myself, and Jim was going. I did go up, and it was being covered by Beverly Two herself and Jim. The minute I saw they were both there, patted them on the back and said, guys, I didn't need me, I'm going. And I did. These are the little things we're trying to do so I can maximize my time. But you could easily get sucked in if you don't watch it at the same program. And so just to give you like an idea of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to shorten things.
All right, anybody else? No?
Part of it does eat up his time. And you really can't start charging people if Russ goes over and files a code enforcement complaint. And then people come and try to work that out. You can't turn the clock on while you're negotiating what the deal is. Or people are just going to drag you out, run the clock up so you'll go ahead and concede. That's not a fair way to conduct negotiations with people. And like I said, part of our problems, they relate to code enforcement, they relate to the ULDCs. And if you get to if you're only going to deal with the symptom, you're not going to solve it. He's going to get to a point where he doesn't talk to people. And they go to the special magistrate. We run this all up and we make people who are members of our community, not foreign and terrible people, but members of our community angry with us for some reason, when we ought to, I think, have a much better look at the ULDCs. Try to solve these problems in advance, not bring people before magistrates over setbacks of where their shade house is. Let's work something out with folks. Right, if they're selling something and we don't think it should be sold there and they're making efforts to move and readapt their business and put themselves through personal reduction in income and additional expense. Now, we want to charge more money ourselves from these folks? I mean, we're supposed to be the type of people who are in favor of people having a business and trying to work in our community and do something to the betterment of our community, not sit here as some sort of stick slapping agency that just slaps you on the wrist all the time and tries to charge you a fee. We need to look at ourselves and say, why do we want to be this way? If that's because government's that way, we're trying to be an experiment in not being that way. At least that was my understanding. And I certainly think we ought to try to do that and not try to be so disciplinarian with folks, but rather try to work with people, especially when they're trying to work with us, when there's examples of people who thumb their nose at us and do whatever the heck they want to. And they're not subjected to penalties. They're selling, they're proceeding, and things are good. So I think we need to work with people who are willing to work with us. Because many of these people, rather than taking Mark's time, could be getting an attorney and taking us to court and trying to make an example of us for freedom to farm or whatever reason they have. So.
It's a tough situation. I obviously don't know everything there is to know about, running a town. And the reason we go with contract type government is so that we have a management team to come in and do it. And I've got to agree with Tom, it bothers me. With the first year we had a management team that said they'll do it for $100,000, I thought, he's $100,000 too low. When he came back the second year, said he'd do it for the same amount of money, I thought, this is really strange. But at the same time, it's a one-way street. In other words, my hope is we get the ULDCs, get them modified to where things will be simpler. Maybe things would change. The whole thing with complaints was we felt that they would slack off. And I think sometimes we all of a sudden, I see ourselves building a bureaucracy. In other words, now if we have another position, he's going to find enough work to keep himself busy. And that might be at you know, at the detriment of some of our citizens that really are not trying to do anything wrong, that are doing something that maybe their neighbors have no problem at all with, and all of a sudden it has become a big issue. You know, and then there are other things that impact our community that we need to deal with. You know, my idea of the, what we feed them. Sometimes maybe we just gotta point them to the documents and say, that's where it is. I mean, I don't walk into a librarian's, you know, at the county library and say, you know, what is Dean Kuntz's book, you know, what's the conclusion on that book, or you know, what does page 53 say? You know, in other words, somebody's gonna say, there it is, go get it. And so I think, you know, you will find that some people will let you do all their work. And so I think somehow we've got to slow that down. I think other times somebody has a simple question, and, you know, I always think of the story of the boy that comes to his mother and wants to know about the birds and the bees. And she proceeds with a 3-hour, you know, description of all the, you know, things that she thinks he needs, and he says, all I wanted to know was how they fly. And, you know, so I think sometimes we can potentially make more work for ourselves, you know, by taking something, and somebody say, well, what can I do? Well, you know what, you're RR5. You know, you're rural residential, you're ag, you know, here's where it is. And, you know, at the same time, we knew we were going to have to pick up the extra cost for planning and zoning. I just want to keep it, you know, I see it growing, and that was never our intention for this town. It was always to keep it simple, because we're looking at all the governments around us, and they're too complicated. And everything is too complicated, and it grows. And I do not want the same thing happening to our town. You know, we had always talked about, well, the guy wants to put a front porch on his house. We're not going to put a permit on there. We're not going to do the inspections. We're not going to, you know, we've got a neighbor to the one side of us that literally to put a hot water heater, and I don't think there's anybody in Waxahachie Groves that can't put their own hot water heater in. And if they don't, they got a neighbor that can. And all of a sudden, well, you've got to have a plumber, an electrician, and inspections, and they go around looking for hot water heaters on the side of the road, you know, on a Saturday, and then going to go knock on the door. Did you replace a hot water heater? Do you have a permit for that? So, I mean, you know, I find myself torn, because I really want to simplify things at the same time it's growing.
If I can, Your Honor, is that one?
Yes.
You guys gave us some great points that I really want to amplify. The first thing is, you talk about the LDC, and Councilman Wilson is absolutely correct. It is not an easy code. I've seen a lot easier code, you know, my experience. I mean, so it's not the easiest thing to administer. That's the first thing. It is going to need a lot of work. Secondly, I'm excited about this upcoming budget year, because there's going to be a lot of planning involved with everything. You're just not going to get a line item. There's going to be a lot of dialogue, a lot of discussion behind the numbers. And one of the things that I will tell you, especially as we are now wrestling with this issue of code enforcement and how we do it, complaints, and I can tell you in my past, and having run 4 code enforcement in different cities, different departments, it's basically done 3 ways. It's done through complaint, it's done through patrol, and it's done through special planning as it relates to trying to attack a problem or trying to go by neighborhood or something along those lines. So believe it or not, the least efficient is the complaints, because in most cases, although it sounds simple on the surface, a lot of those complaints end up being neighbor against neighbor. And I don't care where you are, even when you have cities with full-level code enforcement staff, once the code officer gets in between 2 residents, they're in the middle. Usually nobody's ever happy, and it's not usually a good consequence, because there's a battle. That's really what we have right now. A lot of our cases are complaints between neighbors, and we're doing our best in the middle, trying to be fair to both. So that is one of those discussions we really need to have this budget season, from the standpoint of where are we going in our future with code enforcement? Do we want to stay with the complaint process, and how we're going to do that? I just wanted to toss that out there, because it's, you know, these are some of the real issues behind what we're talking about.
That particular one to me, though, to me, to go out and look for places, somebody hires a helicopter and goes over, and now you're going to charge 30 people for something where right now it might be a problem between two neighbors. And I think the other side is, sometimes it's not a question of being fair. You know, you've got two neighbors where one person is following the rules and the other is not. So I think something like that, I'm really not looking for the concept of fairness. I want them, the one that's not doing what's right, to rectify what's right. And, you know, I mean, if all of a sudden, you know, I'm living next to a junkyard with 500 cars, and well, the junkyard's not legal, to me, it wouldn't be, you know, sufficient to cut it down to 250 vehicles. You know, if what I'm doing is right and what they're doing is wrong, then to me, I mean, I think it's kind of a cut and dry thing. You know, and I want neighbors to get along, and I want people, but sometimes there is a little bit of a thumbing of the nose. You know, I'm gonna do this and you can't stop me, even though there are rules against it or whatever. So, I'm afraid if we went something other than complaint driven, we would come across as being big brother, and we would have major.
And I'm not saying we change it, I'm just saying we need to talk about it. That's all I'm suggesting.
Yeah, I would be against it because I'm already of the belief that code enforcement generates problems in order to generate revenue. And if they can go out and search everybody's house and yard to get complaints, it would never, $10 million in code enforcement.
Well, yeah, we have problems. Ron?
Example, Mark, the situation with the shade house on the property line. Roughly, how many hours did we spend on that?
Said about 8.
About 8 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, now, I recommended to the owner that he come to this council and see if the council would make a special exception. My priority to him was, does your neighbor have a complaint? No, my neighbor. And I went over and talked with the neighbors, and they had no problem whatsoever with the shade house. They communicated well together, they were friends, they had no problem. And I honestly believe that if we would have came to this council, that we could have made it a special exception. I may be wrong about that. So I guess what I think you need for the future is when you come across a code complaint, you should be able to just about tell whether it's going to be costly in hours or time consuming. If you feel like it's going to be time consuming where it's going to cost the town, and if you feel like maybe the best remedy is to bring it to the council and we could possibly do a special exception, then bring it to the council and put it on our shoulders. And then we can direct you, whatever it takes, you do it. Okay. But there's a possibility that we can come up with a solution and the problem can be solved. Especially if the neighbors are working together and the neighbors don't have problems. And that's the biggest thing about here in Loxahatchee, is I feel like the neighbors around you, they should have more influence than a code enforcement officer. They don't have a problem with what you're doing. One thing that bothers me, and we still have a problem with this, we have people in Loxahatchee, right around Loxahatchee, call in complaints. It has nothing to do with their road or anything. And I don't think we need to, I think we've got too many priorities to start trying to clean up Loxahatchee right now. I think we need to have better roads to ride on, healthier atmosphere and stuff like that. And so I think some of those problems, if you bring it to the council initially, we can direct you, then we can't complain about how many hours you spent on it.
Okay, anybody else? I've got 3 public comments. Marge, then I'll get Ann Parker and Nina Courtney.
March Herzog, A Road. Have any municipalities that have contract government been discussing this planning and zoning process?
Nobody else is, I don't think anybody else has contract government.
Okay. So that there's where we don't have any previous history of what's done. All right, about how much time a week does the planning and zoning relate to public questions? I mean, he's talking that Steve is part-time now. Is his time spent mainly on planning and zoning issues right now? Okay. Will other people be doing the same type of work that Steve does too?
I'll still be doing some, but it'll be dropped back, and Steve will be doing the brunt of it, and I'll be doing the things that require a little more expertise or experience.
So right now, when Steve is not there, you're doing what you want Steve to be doing if they vote this extra money.
Steve will be a 35-hour employee with the extra money, but right now he's not. And there are some times when, I'm in the office by myself, so I'm handling phone calls, planning, zoning, everything. It just depends on the schedule that day, who's doing what, who's at a meeting, other things.
Okay. Would it be simpler to have this go out for RFP and set up a limit of hours so that you don't exceed whatever you're putting in your budget, so that you can see, that Steve is still there, Steve is doing what Steve was hired to do, but now you have one person specifically related to just planning and zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Ann Parker?
Ann Parker, being collecting now. At the meetings they go into, all I hear is money coming from here, 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 and now to here. Seems like 75,000 is a lot. That's what, 6,125 or something like that a month. That seems like a lot of money going to come out. How many days a week will they be working on this? We don't have that many people, doesn't seem like we have that many people in Loxahatchee Groves. Just seems like a lot of money being asked.
Thank you, Ann. And Nina Corey?
Nina Corey, Road. I think the problem, as you pointed out, is somewhat with the releases. I think something has to bridge, maybe a combination of remedies. There are a lot of meetings and there are a lot of things that have to follow through if you want to go and create things like trails, etc., that need to find a path to get through the system. And they're currently becoming a little stagnant due to the system being clogged. On the other hand, your system is being clogged because your ULDCs are not conducive to an agrarian environment. And you are not, you really need to revisit them sooner rather than later. I understand it's complaint driven, but the bad guy is not always the one that's actually maybe has something on the property that's not just so. It may be the neighbor that's just loving to find out something constantly. And if you drive around Loxahatchee roads, you can pick off a whole lot of people that are not within our ULDCs. And we need to adjust that. We need to give some leeway for that, for the community that we have, and that will create some relief for the management as well. Thank you.
Tom Glidden?
Tom McLennan, D Road. Am I understanding we're gonna take a guy from 30 hours to 45 hours, an additional 15 hours? And it's gonna cost $77,000 a year? That's what we're getting, is 15 hours? How many hours are gonna be added per week?
What we're doing is we're adding 7 hours to Steve. In fact, if you look at, I'll refer you back to paragraph 2B, talk about the number of hours. A town manager on a full basis, a town clerk, planning associate, and a clerical staff of 95 hours. So we're adding another 35 hours to our staff, which includes Steve and additional people to assist us with getting the project ready.
So there's gonna be somebody in addition to Steve added. So Steve's gonna be brought up to 35 and somebody else is added.
Correct.
And what are the qualifications of this person that's gonna get added? Does the town council know? Are they gonna be someone with planning and zoning background, a degree, 10 years experience? What kind of person are we gonna be adding?
Steve is doing the planning and zoning. I didn't say we're hiring all planning and zoning. I said we're
Okay.
hiring additional people to
Okay.
assist us with all the duties.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm not gonna go into the, how we're hiring and at this point. I think if you wanna come back, we can talk about that later. I don't think it's up to me to discuss the management company's personnel and what their qualifications are.
I would hope the town council would want to know what they're getting besides how many hours. We would want to know what the qualifications are, just like we want to know what his qualifications were when you put it out for RFP to begin with. It seems like you should know what you're going to get for your money, that's all.
At the same time, it is a contract.
Right.
So he's got to provide us with a service for that contract.
I understand.
And we as a council have to figure out if the addition is worth that much over what the original contract should cover, you know, and so that's a decision.
All right. So another thing to keep in mind, or two things. I'm in agreement with Tom 100%. The OLC needs to be looked at. Not only would that save money here, but it would save money with code enforcement, the magistrate, a lot of headaches for everybody. That's one thing. Another thing to keep in mind is when you guys will open this contract, $75,000 a year, that's going to be forever. You guys are never going to take that back. You're never going to say, hey, you know, I know they hired Mary for this job. Mary, you got to go because we don't need you anymore. Every one of you got too much of a heart to do that. So once you guys go up 75,000, that's it. You set the bar there, and it's never going to go back again. So keep that in mind before you make this decision, that it's forever. And that's not government light. Government light doesn't progressively go up every year. It's not government light. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. All right, any further discussion by council members? So roughly our contract management is going from 250 to 325, right?
Generally,
What's that?
generally.
Generally, yeah. Big numbers, I'm gonna just pick up a little stuff. So it's going up 30%? Right? Give or take? So, and we already had overseeing planning and zoning, right, was part of yours. In other words, how did the contract, I guess I'm still trying to figure out what changed.
Well, we do oversee it. I mean, you know, when you do cost recovery, I mean, I'm still managing cost recovery. We're still putting time in, you know, in terms of billings and things like that. That's the oversee. But doing it, I don't think that's.
No, and I understand that, I understand that. You know, and so, and if we put it out for an RFP, my only thought is I don't think we will get a flat number. We will get a number, just like our code, you know, or some of the other services that'll be by the hour. You know, so we have to be careful if we went that way, that we would have to have some way of limiting it to where all of a sudden it wasn't self-fulfilling prophecy. But anyway, Todd's right, this is a one-time thing. We're literally, what we're doing is raising our management fee, you know, by that percentage.
It is, Mayor, but again, I would add, it's a function that you folks took on right before we came on board. The contract indicates we will, yes, we will oversee it, and then you envisioned in the contract, you're going to contract outward or somebody's going to do it. Well, we assumed it, trying to be good soldiers, because we had the ability to do it. And we did it. It's like Bill, you know, indicated to you last meeting. I mean, if you don't want to do it, we can pull back and go to the bare minimum, and you can find out what the market's going to cost you. I think we're giving you a very cost-efficient price. But no, there's no hard feelings. If you don't want us to do it, we'll back up, and you can get somebody.
Mr. Mayor, while I definitely don't want to spend the extra money, just on principle, I will, in Mark's defense, you know, remind the council that that was something that Frank Spence was definitely talking about, and he was definitely looking to get more money for that purpose, and, you know, to be apples to oranges to try to say, you know, I do this for the same amount. So, as much as I don't want to spend the money, as much as I don't want to increase the cost of the government, I think that in this particular case, that we should do it, but we definitely need to look at trying to reduce the root causes of this problem.
Yeah.
And
I think Tom, you're right, because I think that was just about the amount that Frank had tacked on to get from the time that he'd given us a budget number, when he said, well, to include the additional planning and zoning, you know, I think his proposal had gone up about that much. You know, so I guess my feeling is this way. If this is a one-time deal and everything gets taken care of, you know, if this happens every year, all of a sudden, it's gonna be really hard.
Well, we believe it's a one-time deal because, as we indicated, you control work authorizations. You don't want us to do anything up and above what is required. You know, when it shows that, then that's fine.
Well, no, see, we're adding $75,000 to your contract. Whether we approve anything or not, your contract is going up. Now, at the same time, there's a learning curve. You didn't know what it cost to, run the town. And it is changing. We're adding committees. Committees want reports and everything else. So, I mean, I understand that it's changing.
But you understand what I'm saying, these are basic things on the service. Work authorizations relate to things up and above, like, I'll give you one example, Councilman Golson came up with a very good idea for an ordinance and regarding invasives and exotics and doing that. That is up and above the basic. When you start getting to writing those kind of codes and things like that, it's very time consuming and it takes a lot of work. And that's not basic, that's augmented type services, that's all we're saying. You control that, because you can say, yes, staff, we think it's important and we think you should do it, or you could RFP it out and get somebody else to do it, or you could choose not to do it. I mean, the control is with you.
Well,
I don't believe it's a lifetime thing. First of all, your contract's gonna come to an end. And if we feel like that we haven't got our 75,000 additional, if we feel like we haven't got the services that this town needed from your management team, then we'll go out for RFPs. And it's like we said about Frank Spence jumped more than 33%. He said that he would work for this town for 280,000. Okay. Nothing against Frank. He's a very smart man. He's got a lot of years' experience as an administrator and stuff. But I look at what we accomplished while Frank was here. Okay. And I wasn't very impressed. Okay. I look at what we accomplished while you took over and what we are capable of doing in 2012 if we continue to head on the same road that we're headed right now. I said this is going to be the best year Loxahatch has ever seen. And it's not just because we're on this council, it's because we've got a good management team that I feel like you're worth paying for. And if it gets to the point where we're dissatisfied, we can stop your contract or we can tell you to go out for RFPs or whatever. But no, I personally think we're getting our money's worth, and I'm proud of the job you're doing.
all right. Any other, Jim?
Just to recap, we all know that we had this service held out, sliced off the side, we left it out of the contract, we left it out of our services to be provided by anyone. We knew it was there. We're going through, we went through a very major stage of writing land use code. Now, in the normal process, you go through the test of land use codes. And we're all seeing that, and we've been reminded they're a living and breathing document. We won't be changing and looking at adding and deleting things from them. This 200 pages, a lot of work went in there. I don't feel like being one of those that were part of that process, that we put a lot of things in there that we don't need. Because when we did the whole process, went through it, we had that constantly on the table. We don't want to make things, too restrictive. We got to remind ourselves where we are. And if we have something in our land use codes, we need to raise the issues, get it resolved, if it's a violation, get it fixed. If the codes need to be modified, let's modify it. But that's what you have a point of reference to go from. I think one thing that we may have forgotten that we saw like the last meeting, there's been a lot of, our management team has a lot of experience now with the town, specifically P&Z. It's not like they came and said, hey, I'm gonna win, I think it's gonna be so many hours. They've gone through, they've worked the hours, they've spent the time, they've come back to us and said, this is what we think it's gonna be required, and we're gonna make it effective May 1st. And if they've been doing this since October 1st, then you almost ask yourself the question, well, I guess that's been free. And it has. I'm sure it's been at the expense of some of the other things that we maybe could have gotten done, but the point is, they've assessed it, and I think it's almost, I'm saying too many more things about it, but we have some good experience, they're giving us recommendation, we go forward, and, you know, if things change, we may be able to modify, consolidate, and down the road, and change the amount of services that we require, and revisit that. We may end up increasing. It's all based on service. We're adding a service, we've added a service, and we have no funding for it.
All right, we have a motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. You have your $75,000. All right. What's that?
Everybody was in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unanimous.
Yep. Okay, we're going on to new business. We have 3 items.
Okay. Your Honor, the first one is hurricane debris management services. Let me take you through this. This report has a lot of it. This was the issue, you know, back in 2000, we did an RFQ in 2003 for the debris, disaster debris removal and disposal. We did an RFQ for disaster debris monitoring and an RFP for hurricane debris management. As you know, there was a complaint to the Office of the Inspector General. They looked at it, and in your report, I've actually listed verbatim the following issues that they identified under their contract oversight notification process. There were 5 issues. This came to you. You went ahead, they had no problem with the first 2, with the first 2 RFQs as it relates to disaster debris removal and monitoring services. And in July 8 of 2011, based upon their concerns, Mayor Browning sent the OIG a letter. You were in the middle of hurricane season, and you basically indicated that you wanted time to address this issue. You wanted to keep the contract in place, but you did advise them that you would go through an RFP process, and we inserted a convenience clause of termination in the contract, knowing that you may have to terminate the contract. Now, we've looked at everything since we've been aboard, and I can tell you, I've looked at the emergency management plan document. It needs a lot of work. It's just a bunch of different policies and information cobbled together to formulate a plan, if you will. There is no COOP plan, which is a continuity of operations, which is basically a component of your emergency management, which says if where we're operating, if our officers move up tomorrow, what are our plans, what do we have, do we have to-go kits, are we ready to go, and have to start a mobile operation somewhere else to keep town business going. Also, there's no succession plan in time of catastrophe. That is, if we were meeting in this room right now and something happened and most of us got wiped out, how would the town government move forward? Who would take over those kinds of things? Additionally, Florida Statute 252.38 requires that a municipality's emergency management plan must be consistent with the county's emergency management plan. And I can tell you, since 2009, Palm Beach County has been doing a lot of modification and changes to their plans. I tell you all this because this is the kind of stuff that we actually need done. And that's part of my recommendation, but I highlighted that for you. So basically what I provided you with is all the attachments for your information as it relates to this report. And I basically have 3 recommendations for you after looking at this. And I will say, and one thing I will say too is we believe that the providers we have online for debris removal and for debris monitoring, in conjunction with what we're required to do under our contract, we believe we're adequately covered. We don't need the contract with GRD at this point in time. Where we might be able to use somebody like GRD is in the issue with the emergency management plan like I was just talking about. Because I'm going to be busy in the next month doing the basic stuff in terms of changing out names and phone numbers and things like that. But I'm talking about the actual drafting and rewriting of that plan. So my recommendation to you is as follows. Number 1, terminate the agreement with convenience relative to GRD solutions and direct the town manager, town attorney to advise GRD by letter, providing 30 days notice per the agreement. And I would also add, I didn't have that in writing, but I would also add, obviously notify the OIG of our actions, which I indicated. The second recommendation is to support the town manager's determination that an RFP is not necessary for the management of debris services in question. And third is to authorize the town manager to issue an RFP for the updating of the emergency management plan and associated components. In essence, this work will not start until the next budget year. It can be addressed from a fiscal standpoint. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying we have to run out and do this and we're gonna try to get through this season. We'll try to shore it up and do what we have to do. But possibly maybe for next budget year, when we're talking budget, this is something we need to address and talk about how we're gonna handle this. So in sum total, that's my series of recommendations on how to address this issue. Be happy to address any questions.
Okay. Council members?
We need a motion to approve the 30-day notice and cancellation of the contract, right?
Yes, sir, you need a motion to authorize us to notify that we are terminating for convenience pursuant to the contract.
I'll make such a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? We have a second. Motion by Jim, second by Ryan. Now, the only question I've got though, Mark, is I sat in a couple of these meetings where we went through the scenario of if this building went, what we were gonna do. Backup generator sites, backup office sites, you know, so it wasn't like we had no plan. We also knew that this was to be, you know, whatever management team, and before that meeting, I really thought, well, they're probably not as necessary as debris removal and some of the others.
Right.
I walked away from the meeting realizing that was probably the most important part of all of it, because they're the ones that determine whether you're gonna get your FEMA money or not. So if you have a guy that's not a manager, what's that?
Your monitor.
Well, your monitor monitors loads,
Right.
but the manager is the guy that oversees all of it. So he's the one that coordinates.
We oversee it, but O'Brien's gonna be the one that's gonna be doing the load tickets and getting.
Yeah, no, that's debris movement. You have debris movement and monitoring.
Correct.
I'm just talking about, it's a position that we put out for an RFP that was not gonna cost our town anything.
Right.
If you need them, they're there.
Right.
I'm just saying that if you need them and they're not there, it could cost us a lot of money and not getting reimbursed.
Well,
Now, my thought was that you're gonna be busy during that period of time to all of a sudden take on another position, but if you're willing to do that, I'm going for it. I mean, that's fine with me.
I think your contract's a vision. We're not trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
No.
Part of the
Yeah.
recommendation is what to do after you terminate GRD. What you're talking about is the recommendation to town management not to do the new RFP, which is what we told the OIG we were going to do.
That's what I was thinking. I thought we were going to put it out for an RFP again and look at somebody to do that position. And now I agree, in your contract it says you do that. You know, I just want to make sure that you're comfortable doing it. And if you are, and it doesn't cost us any money that we lose,
Where you can put it comfortable.
well, I mean, your other,
We're comfortable.
here's my thought, your other duties aren't gonna stop. All of a sudden, that's gonna be over and above everything else, potentially in a really rough position. You know, so I mean, and that's my only thought. I mean, listen to these guys, they had portable trailers all set up, ready to come in to run the thing and do it all, and they've done it with Katrina, and they've done it with a whole lot of others, so they've got a good track record. And the towns that we talked to had recouped all the money they put in for, and they were early in the thing. And we know during some of the storms, some towns never got their money because they did not have the proper.
Yes, and I can tell you, I'm aware of that training, we've had that with a lot of our people in different cities. A lot of that is just knowing how to fill out the forms and doing the proper monitoring.
Okay.
And it goes down the line. Now, having said that, let me also say, that's where we work at a disadvantage, because we're not like a normal city government where we have 12 departments reporting to a manager, and there's that kind of control, because we have vendors. Okay, so just remember that, we have vendors, we don't control.
Yeah, I don't know how that,
Okay, you ready for it?
somebody had said something about that one. I don't think so. You know. Things are really- covered everything.
Good evening, and welcome to the Tuesday, May 16th meeting of the Town of Los Angeles Town Council. We have a roll call, please.
Councilman Wilson. Councilman Gerald.
President.
Councilman Liang. Vice Mayor Rocket.
Here.
Mayor Brown.
Here. We can stand for the pledge, remain standing for the occasion. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, again, we ask for wisdom and guidance. We thank you for the rain that you've sent, and we can still use some more. Give us a great night tonight. We pray in your name. Amen. All right. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to add, it would good, since we're not going to be discussing the college tonight, we're on intent. I'd like to add on a new business, make it a C, road work request needed now.
Okay, anybody else have any additions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion for the agenda as amended.
Okay, Jim makes a motion. Second?
Second.
Second by Ron. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving to the consent agenda. Any changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, have a motion by Jim. Second?
Second.
Second by Ron. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 4-0. We're moving to item 5, ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, regretfully, I must put on the record that there was a typographical error in the ordinance title which was advertised for tonight's hearing. We felt that, unfortunately, it had the wrong policy that was being rescinded. It should be 1.15.9. And we have been consulting with the college, the applicants, on this matter to see whether they still want to proceed with that, given that it is Scrivener's error. It's my understanding, talking with their attorney today, that they would like to defer it and renotice it so that there is certainty in the notice process. There are representatives of the college here. I think at this time it would be appropriate to have them come up and speak with the council about this matter and the timing and how this affects what they're doing, and see about resetting these and putting out corrected notices for those hearings.
Okay.
This was an issue, just for the record, this is not the college's doing. The notice was prepared by staff, and it's unfortunately not our finest moment. But just want to put that you did move this to accommodate them tonight, but the next request was a result of the typo in the notice that we put out.
Okay.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor Browning, council members. Colleen Walter with Urban Design Philly Studios. Also here this evening is Dick Becker from Palm Beach State College and Jennifer Morton with Land Design South. As you know, there are 2 land use amendment applications on your agenda this evening. They are associated. The first one to remove the MLU designation and rescind the special policy. And as staff has indicated, unfortunately, special policy reference was incorrect. Believe me, we all understand accidents happen. It's nobody's fault. And we appreciate staff working with us as closely as they have. You do have a letter from Land Design South requesting postponement of the first application. I'm here this evening on behalf of the college requesting postponement of the second until such time that the meeting can be rescheduled and appropriate notifications can be sent out. As you know, I was here 2 weeks ago asking for this meeting to be rescheduled because of contractual obligations that the college has with the citizens and property owners. Unfortunately, this just kind of magnifies those issues. I know in talking with town staff, we had first said, well, is there any way that we can move these items to the June 5th agenda? Recognizing that that's typically your business meeting, but because of the extenuating circumstances and the contractual obligations, we did hear from town staff that Councilman Bolsonaro will not be available for that meeting. And I know from the discussions, 2 weeks ago, that the council was very hesitant to move forward without a full council, and we understand that. But what I would like to ask is possibly for the consideration for the June 5th meeting, and in deference to Councilman Bolsonaro, the transmittal hearing starts the process. This is where the process begins. The changes get sent to the state for their review. Ultimately, they come back to you for the final adoption hearing. And based on the schedule that we've been working on with staff, pretty much since we started the process, the college's intent would be to have the master site development plan and their design guidelines on the same agenda as the adoption of the comprehensive plan amendments. So really, that's going to be the substantive discussion on the project, because it's going to be the comp plan amendments and the master site development plan and the design guidelines. And again, we understand that if it's the council's desire to move the meeting to the end of June so that all 5 council members can be here, we understand that. But just so you know, that's going to cause a contractual issue with the college and the property owners. Not that I want to indicate in any way that it can't be resolved. It's just going to essentially reopen those discussions. So if you would consider June 5th, we'd appreciate it. If not, I think we'd like to establish the date for the meeting at the end of June.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And as Colleen did say, I do have a letter here from Plan Design South, who gave me their.
Okay. Okay. So what's the next step? Do we talk about another date right now?
Yeah, you all need to, I guess the first thing is you have a request for June 5th, understanding you won't have Councilman votes today. Whatever date you set to do this is going to have to be done by motion. So if you all need to kind of discuss it, I don't know if you want to, I'm just going to reveal my conversations with the mayor. He will not be here on the 19th. And so if you're hesitant to do it at a meeting where you have less than all of you, then we're looking at setting something up for the last week in June as a special. Okay.
I would make a motion that we have a meeting on the 26th of June, last Tuesday.
Okay. Second.
I'll say that.
Okay. So we have and where the suggested motion has been made that we will have it June 26th. Now, at one time, there was talk that that meeting could substitute for our July meeting also.
I would amend the motion to include that.
That would be, because otherwise it's on July 3rd or something like that. I'll let the record show Ryan Lang has arrived.
I would amend the motion to include that it also substitute for the July 3rd meeting.
Jim, all right with that?
Everybody will be here on June 26th instead of the 19th.
I think
Instead of
we,
June, instead of July 3rd also.
you know,
Policy, yeah, just to make sure somebody.
yeah, we tried real hard to make sure everybody's here. And,
Understand.
and so I think it's, any other discussion?
So we're going to move the meeting from the 19th.
Well, the motion is the way it was, like Councilman Olson was, instead of the 3rd, which is later on in your meeting, you would meet on the 26th. You haven't discussed it.
Okay. All right.
But for the purpose of the college, it would be on the 26th.
That's all you really need to do for this. Then you can decide to do it
All
on
right.
19th and the 3rd later if you want to do it that way. If you want to start over and just set the college, then you can talk about.
Let's
the other
go
items.
back to your original motion. And Jim's all right with that?
Yes.
All right, we have a motion to move the meeting regarding the Palm Beach State College to June 26th, so that we will have a
7 p.m.
Yes.
Yes.
Anytime we change something, it messes things up. We're creatures of habit. All right, so if that's all right with you, okay.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. We'll see you on
What
the
we
26th.
will do is, we will work closely with the college and make sure that all our ducks in a row on time for the 26th. We have been working with them, we will continue to work with them, and make sure that everything is a go for the 26th, whatever we need to do to help them out on this side. Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
And that's for items, for both the ordinances, 21204 and 21205, correct? Yeah, that was the request, right, both of them?
Okay. All right, so we're moving to administrative update.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Got several quick items, I hope. The first one is, well, House of Presses, we had an IGC meeting today on the 16th, so we're getting the report same day. We had, the agenda was essentially the same because it was loaded up with old business items that we had been discussing and reporting on. The first was the traffic signal request. And I would just say there that, as you know, as you talked about at your last meeting, the thing I did report is, what I would like to do is, we have two issues that we're trying to gain an audience with Commissioner Santa Maria. One is on the planning of the Okeechobee Boulevard that the Vice Mayor, is very concerned about. The other is the traffic signal request that's being championed by Councilman Gerald. What I would suggest, with your concurrence, is I would like to see if I can take both of these and try to get one meeting with Commissioner Santa Maria, and we would need George Webb. And I guess, Mayor, I was wondering if the council, I assume that you would probably be handling the signal, but I was wondering if you would want to let Vice Mayor Rocket, since he's concerned about the planning situation, also handle the signal. If that's okay.
That's fine with me.
So I'll go ahead and I'll endeavor to try to do that. Basically, keep, two birds with one stone. Okay, secondly, we had a discussion, kind of morphed into each other during the meeting, but we talked about the future of the town and the district as far as the workshops that are coming up and modification to the interlocal agreements that are also coming up. What we agreed to was that we indicated that the next couple of IGC meetings are going to probably be very long. We're looking at maybe 2 to 3 hour meetings, and what we wanted to do is we agreed to devote the June meeting to talking about interlocal agreements, and then the July meeting to talk about the issues related to the roads and as it relates to the town and it relates to the district. And I don't use the word merger, but basically the arrangements that we're going to have as we go into the workshops. So we're looking at 2 long meetings, and it'll give the IGC the chance to generate the information that you're going to need to look at after we get off vacation. And we're back to having the first workshop, which was talked about being September, the second meeting in September, which would be September 18th. So we have that window to work with. We also had a discussion relative to the provision of services that the district can provide the town relative to roads. The current interlocal agreement talks basically right now just about grading, and we kind of take the interpretation also feel is needed to accomplish that grading, that's fine. What the interlocal doesn't take into account is the mowing of the beds and the trimming of trees as it relates to a number of the roadways. So we talked about that. We talked about how the district may be able to be a player in that regard in the future. Clete actually handed out a proposed scope of work that really more or less deals with the maintenance of roadways from a grading standpoint. He's going to amend it to maybe add some of the other work that we talked about. But I will provide that to you under separate cover. I think he provided it today with the acknowledgement that it's going to be amended some more in the future. We talked about planning criteria that the council talked about last time as it relates for doing roads and adding roads that are going to have OJEM. And you remember Councilman Golson, I think was one of the council members who talked about the fact that we need planning criteria as we try to determine what additional roadways may warrant OJEM. We also talked about the fact that we in the past have talked about possibly doing bids for services as it relates to the maintenance and construction, everything related to the roadways. And we talked about the fact that when the management company looks at it, that it may in fact be a bid, but we're looking at possibly having a couple firms on continuing service service type basis to address issues as they come about. And so the district talked about possibly being, adding themselves to that bid and being a proposer when the time comes. We also talked about Clicking Canal Road, and we reported, and I'll be reporting in a few minutes in the rest of my report, that Mike and Clete and myself and Mary Viator, we talked about it, but we have to get back together and have some more in-depth meetings so we can come back and give you a game plan as it relates to Clicking Canal Road. Clete did report on the speed humps, and he advised that per the template that they were using, that pretty much all of the speed humps passed the criteria with the exception of one hump on C Road. So, I mean, that's, then there was some discussion about studies that went into supporting the criteria for the humps. So we went there. I will be providing you, again, probably in that same memorandum or separate cover where I'm providing Clete's work proposal. I'll give you the agenda item that he prepared for the district, which talks about speed hump report. So you'll have that, and I'll get that to you before the week's out. We then set that next meeting of the IGC for June 13th at 11 o'clock. And we just wanted to establish, again, up front, that everybody's going to be involved in that, be prepared for maybe a 3-hour meeting. We have to grab some sandwiches and bring them in. We're going to do that, but we think we need that amount of time just to cover the ground that we need to cover. Before I go to my next item, Councilman, is that pretty accurate? Did I just say anything you wanted me to cover?
No, that's good.
Okay, thank you.
The one speed hump, were they gonna modify it, work on it, or is it one was beyond?
I think so, right? I mean, you didn't actually say that, but I think that's the plan. Yeah, they were correct.
Okay.
Okay, next item, from the April and May meetings, council had asked us to look at several projects. And just for recollection, one is code enforcement on setbacks and tree trimming cases that we currently have. One is on the additional OGM projects, we talked about Compton, Bryan, Collecting Canal, et cetera, and we're talking about how we're gonna handle those under procurement, and then Collecting Canal Road. And Mike and I have started some meetings, we're gonna be meeting again next week, and I will endeavor to give you an update on all these issues at your June 5th meeting. We'll try to cover them a little more depth, and get some ideas where we're going with all those after we've had our meeting. So that's just to give you an idea where we're coming from with that. On May 5th, I transmitted a memo to the town council regarding our discussion of priorities in the last meeting. Remember, you guys had asked that you just go ahead and come up with your priorities. So I did that. It was sent to you on May 5th. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'm going to try to live by that priority schedule and follow it. So if you have any questions, please feel free to get with me. And finally, on a sad and a happy personnel note, Jan Moore, our town clerk, will be leaving the management company to make a move to another state with her family. Her last day with the company and the town will be May 31st. That is Thursday. On June 1st, we will have a new new clerk that's going to be coming on board with previous clerk experience. And I wanted to inform the council and let you know I'd like to thank Jan for her contribution to the town management company and the town as a whole. As we came in here, we had some interesting challenges, and she was a vital part of the operation, helping us achieve that. And I just want to wish her the best as she makes her move. And that concludes my report.
Okay, well, we're sorry to see Jan go. She's done a great job. And your reference to the town as a whole, good luck in your future. Anyway, thank you for your service. All right, any questions or comments for Mark? All right, thanks for the report. Moving on to, we've got the old business, number 8.
Yes, Your Honor, that's me, and this is a contract modification from our last meeting. We went ahead and we prepared, just to go through what we provided in the agenda. We provided an amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement, which includes the scope of what we're going to be doing, the fact that we're adding the planning associate full-time to deal with the planning and zoning hours, the fees and expenses, and of course the key there is Exhibit B. Exhibit B, if you look at the bullet points, those are the services that we have been providing now that wasn't in our original contract. And then below the bullets is the work authorization that Bill Underwood talked to you about at the last meeting with the hourly rates. And just to clarify, what that work authorization would represent would be if we're going to take on basically big-time projects, with either that is going to take a commitment of hours, if you ask us to write an ordinance or something up and above the general duties. There's also a work authorization form, just as an example. And what we provide to you as well is a 4-page handout. It's been updated to add a couple more cities. We basically got, I believe, 34 out of the 37 other municipalities in the county, including the county, which is, we're just missing a couple of cities. I think Lake Worth is one. What it does, though, is it shows you what the other cities are doing, especially as it relates in terms to planning and zoning review and to fees. And one of the reasons we did this was because we did have several discussions about attempting to, recapture some of these costs from a cost recovery standpoint. And we were adamant that, the management company was adamant that it's nobody does the fee for planning and zoning and general services. That's just something that every government does in its service to the public. Some in that category, if you look through that spreadsheet, some cities do charge for a zoning confirmation letter, but that's more or less where you're asking their staff to do research and confirm either a zoning or confirm some special zoning arrangement as it relates to some contractual issue they may have. So they do provide a charge. You do see there are some cities that do charge a fee for certain things. In some cities, you will notice that the planning and zoning review is handled through the building permit, which is impossible for us because under our local agreement, Palm Beach County basically retains all the fees for the building permit. So we're totally in sync with the town council in terms of we're going to, that's on the priority list, and we're going to try to work on some fees that we can additionally charge to cover some of the planning and zoning review. I guess I would add that we feel that it's I think our proposal is a good one. We supposed to be doing planning and zoning. That was supposed to be a vendor, and I would tell you based upon the sum that we've identified in here, even if you had, if you got a vendor that was charging a fee similar to, let's say, our code enforcement consultants, that's a $45 charge. Well, having them in $35 an hour, just that charge alone would run to over $8,000, and we think that's probably on the low side. So we feel that we made a very good proposal that will help us to keep moving forward and won't cause any downtime. If we decide to go to an RFP, we pull back from that, and then we have issues until we get somebody else on board. So these are some of the concerns we had, and kind of run through a lot of information. Be happy to address any questions you may have.
Okay. Council, comments? Jim?
Well, first of all, Mark, thank you for providing the information that I had asked for. And I kind of spoke on behalf of the council. As I recall, when we talked about planning and zoning a year back, we left it, excluded it, and out of the proposal for town management services. And we did that for a reason. We did it thinking that when we addressed it, that maybe we could have some kind of recovery of that service, and not necessarily having all those facts at hand at the time we made that. At least my thinking was that we might be able to recover most, if not all. By providing, this kind of input, we see that yes, there are some fees, and where it looks like where the actual building permit situation, like we have a relationship with the county, the issue there, the work that you go through before they will issue any permits, before their review, I think fits into a couple of situations where we saw that a fee is appropriate. The only thing I don't know is if possibly Palm Beach County's fee would be any different, or is it any different with the fact that with your signing off and your front-end work, are they charging a different fee? I doubt it.
No, it's probably something.
I doubt it. But that's something that certainly it stands out, let's right off the page that there's something we ought to be doing in that arena. And I would suggest that we start doing it right away, before you even come up with a fee schedule that's, along the list, but maybe we come up with a fee specific for that one category. Or if there's anything else that you might have in mind, starting tonight, we could add a couple of things, a couple of fee items.
Well, if I may, Vice Mayor, your suggestion is a good one. I think rather than wait for a full-blown study with all the other projects we have, we're probably going to have to maybe do it on a piecemeal, incremental basis. And I mean, you know, it takes more time. What we'll do is we'll probably look at what we do in our rates versus, you know, maybe we'll look at 10 similar cities and try to just get a composite of what they're charging. And then we, you know, that's how you pretty much how you can set an accurate fee. And we may have to, I mean, with your indulgence, you know, we may have to be bringing them back one at a time, but I'd rather try to do that, and that would at least help us. We wouldn't lose out on some fees that we're not getting now, that we have in place.
That's what I would suggest, kind of get started with something and we'll take the, you know, kind of the high points that you can easily pick, come up with some kind of suggestion. And then each meeting, as far as I'm concerned, you know, we can add to the fee schedule. Now, one of the other things that we've not really discussed, and it's the council owes you direction relative to this subject, is that what kind of services are we gonna eat and absorb? And what kind of services, in terms of categories or maybe time concepts or some discussion, give you a little bit of feedback on that, because we should be giving you some kind of direction. You know, from one extreme to the other, one is says it's completely free, there's no fees, we don't charge anybody out here, you know, versus everything you talk on a subject, if you have to put anything in writing, there's a fee. If you have to spend more than 5 minutes on something, you know, you have to learn to cut it off. And there's a fee schedule in the office possibly. I mean, there's a whole long list of things, but I think I'd like to have council maybe take the opportunity to discuss our concept of service level and for what fee level and for what, when it's just included in, there's no fee level. Because we have an opportunity to create here. We can do it in piecemeal now. We can kind of give you some ideas that you come back. We can discuss it again to give you a little more input based on what you come back with. You know, maybe say, well, you hit the mark on that, but you missed the mark on this, but maybe do a little bit of that. So, but I do want to see us get started with something, one of the obvious ones, and develop as we go. Part of this also, a fee schedule. Part of the concept is to at least suggest that there's a cutoff point where a fee takes over and maybe a free service stops. You give somebody the opportunity to do something for them that's short and sweet, but you have a guideline that you use, and when somebody comes and asks a question, you can upfront tell them, you know, this is something we'll do certain things, and there's certain things with fees, and once you require more effort than whatever, you know, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it might be, 15 minutes, because you do a lot of those in one day, you've lost all day. So it's kind of a little bit like, you know, I want to see us recover. I mean, I'd like to say that we shoot for 50% of this cost as a goal initially. I don't know if that's reasonable. I've abandoned 100% because of all the pushback I've been getting about that's not possible, Jim. So it's that's kind of where my thinking has been, and I'd like to maybe pass you a little bit of feedback to some of what each of you are thinking.
Right. Well, when I spoke to you guys, we did discuss, you know, that not everything in planning zone related can be recovered. You know, obviously, I think, you know, we should try to recover as much as possible to an extent. You know, the general information inquiries, you know, obviously, I don't think we should charge for that, but if it gets more specific to the, you know, their particular property and they're requiring, I don't know about 5 minutes or less, but maybe half an hour or less, you know, to work on something, then we could, you know, have a fee for that. But I think it's good to bring it up a little, you know, a piece at a time and start work out a fee schedule for any work incurred, planning and zoning related.
Ron?
I agree with Tom and Ryan. My concern is the hours that you're putting into this now. You know, unless I'm misinterpreting, I'm thinking you're going to need more money. That's I'm off base here. The hours that you're putting into this, I mean, I'd like to be able to recover at least 50%. you know, I'll be honest with you, it doesn't seem like we're doing that. You know, and 100% probably out of question, so I just need a clarification what we're looking for.
Well, I think rather than giving Mark direction on who he shouldn't charge, it'd be better for Mark to come up with what's reasonable and customary as he was with the schedule of what we're gonna charge people. And then if you need to do that on a piecemeal basis, you know, that's what you can do. But if you can get together and, you know, you can approve it, that would be fine. But I don't think we need to specify. And I think, you know, we do want to be open to people, but we don't want to have them monopolize their time. We've discussed in the past. That's where I'm coming from.
And I'm in agreement. And I think that, you know, something fair, I noticed it ranges $45 to $250. You know, it seems like with this, you know, where you know, the confirmation letter or whatever, I think a lot of people fish. You know, I mean, they're going to try to use your staff to work out things that they could very easily look up or do themselves. And, you know, but they would rather get you to do it than them.
Right.
And so I would like to discourage that. We do not have high taxes in our town. You know, most of the taxes that in our town go down in the county. And, you know, most of the others are used, I think, very frugally. So I hate to see 3 or 4 people that always have, well, you know, what's the highest, best use I can get for my property, use my property for, and where I can make the most money, and everybody else paying for it. So I'm in agreement. I think we need to look at this and come up with a fair, you know, just a reasonable way of, you know, coming at it.
Well, I can. There's no question, I believe, you know, based upon this survey, we can put charges on business tax receipts. That was a little trickier because each business tax receipt, the charge for the receipt itself is different depending upon what the receipt is for. No question about the P&Z review for anything that's coming in that's going to be transmitted to the county to review for building permit. If we have to stamp it and look at it for county, and we'll take a look at it. So you know, no question there. We can also set up some fees for the letters that people need, just like a few of the cities have. You know, when they want a special zoning letter to confirm the zoning category, or if they're looking for something that's a little bit more interpretive or not, you know, we can do that. The area that when Vice Mayor Rock and I talk about is the general inquiries. That's a tough one because that's one where people expect to be able to come into any government or any type and be able to talk to staff and not be charged for whatever information they're requesting. That may be, can I see a code? What's my property zone? What can I do with my property? What are the setback requirements? What does the comprehensive plan say? I mean, the list goes on and on. So that's the first thing. And that was a tough one. That is hard. That's hard to recover. That's why I don't know if we could get, you know, conservative estimate. I'm hoping that we can maybe recover 33% of the fees. You know, but that's a big one. Now, I will say one thing about the draining of time, because I have actually experimented just recently for some of the vice mayor's advice. And I don't want to get into the specifics of the case, but I'm just going to tell you, you know, the one code case we have, the pre-mitigation that we're going to be reporting to you on next week. Mrs. Gonzalez has been in my office in the last 2 days trying to get a meeting with me to talk about our project. And I've already met with her one time for almost a 2-hour period. I've had meetings with Councilman Golson, I've had meetings with somebody representing her, I've had meetings with the code officers, and I flat out refused. I said, I'm not going to meet with you on this. I said, you don't really need to meet with me right now. You need to meet with the code officer. If he can't answer your questions, then I'm going to be reporting to council in the near future, and you need to wait. Because she wanted to talk about bona fide agricultural and all the issues related to that, which can kind of get for hours if I have to sit down and so she came in, she got with Steve. Steve had to spend some time with her. She's relentless. She has sent me an email asking me the question and not understanding why I won't talk to her. So when I tell you it's easier said than done, these are the kind of things that I'm, I'm in a way, part of me feels bad that as a public servant, I'm not trying to address her needs. But I'm also trying to kind of follow some of the general guidance that you laid out for me. But that's just one example of the kind of things that we face on a day-in-day basis for somebody expecting. We're going to go talk to them, and you're going to go talk to them soon. So with that, the request for the contract, Bill and I both feel the work authorization format is very fair to the town because it comes to you in advance that gives you all the control. Those rates are placed, they're not just planning and zoning rates. For example, if you wanted to build or do something out of the ordinary, some kind of special financial analysis or something, that's why his rate is in there for doing that. Bill's not gonna be doing planning and zoning. It's not his area of expertise, but it's there for anything that you would want that's up and above the contract and the management company. What we're asking for is the basic $75,000 to take care of the additional staff to make Steve a full-time employee now working the full 35 hours and doing what he's doing. And we're thinking that we believe that's a fair cost and will hopefully get us on the point where we're freed up a little bit, so now we can kind of get to the projects that are starting to line up because of that planning zone function. And that's what that's what it's been about from day one, planning zone.
Okay. Mike?
Two things, just a transition on the fee schedule. It comes to you proposed, you can adopt it by resolution. You have a cost recovery ordinance that authorizes, cost recovery on projects, so you can set the fees by reso. That'll allow you to change the fees by reso later if you need to, as opposed to go through the whole ordinance process. So I'll take a look at that. I did have two comments on the document itself that I wanted to just go through because I hadn't reviewed it until it was in the agenda and they're relatively minor, just that I've already gone over with Mark on the paragraph 3A. It would be effective, the words effective May 1st, 2012 would be put in there. So that's when the proposed fee, if you adopt it, would start for the month of May, instead of the proposal. And then the second on Exhibit B, as Mark just indicated, the work authorization would come to you in advance. So they've agreed to put the words in advance in that section at work authorization presented and approved by the town council in advance. So, but otherwise it's just an amendment. All the other terms of the contract have been changed other than what's in here. So they've agreed to those modifications. So depending on what you do, that's what I would ask that you move forward, that you include those two modifications in whatever action you take.
Okay. All right. I guess the next step would be is someone willing to make a motion, a second, and we'll discuss it.
And the motion is to approve the revision 1 in the amount of effective May 1st. Is that
Well, the amendment 1 provides for an increase, I guess, scope of services to include zoning, an increase of about from $20,885.20 per month to $27,135 per month. And then with the work authorization process for special services, with the hourly rate for those special services set forth in Exhibit B.
So if we make a motion to approve the revision 1, we have, when you go from monthly difference is how much per month?
Well, it's $6,700.
$250.
What's that?
$6,250.
Thank you.
That's monthly?
Yeah, 75,000.
Okay, that's 75,000. So you can say it's 75,000, or you can say it's based on a revision with the monthly rate changing for the revision 1 is proposed. And if you go through that, if you make any assumptions of fringe, fringe is such an unknown these days. Anyway, it's big though. You're talking about something in the neighborhood of $30 an hour without the fringe, which I guess I can compare that to services that we have on the town, at the town, one being our boots on the ground, our public works person, and our code violations is 45 now, I believe. So somewhere between those two. Okay. I would make a motion that to agree to approve revision 1 with the new rates per month, and which inclusive of the work authorization process and the rates are referenced there. And then it's effective May 1st, I believe that's from resolution 1, or revision 1, sorry.
Okay. Satisfied, Mike?
Oh, yeah, that's,
Okay. Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Second by Ron. Motion by Jim. All right, discussion by council members. Tom, let's start off.
Exhibit B, I guess what I'm to gather from this is that these things, these bullet points are things that were not something that were anticipated in the initial contract. Is that the case?
I think, everything, to me, in fairness, lien searches, I think, were being accomplished before, and I think we charged $20 for a lien search.
Right. I think we've always had the manure license when, we had that with the previous management company, and that was part of their responsibilities. And I'm not really understanding the code enforcement issue. You were hired to administer the code enforcement, so I'm missing.
As I indicated, I guess last meeting, the code enforcement issue is that probably 9 out of every 10 cases in code enforcement in this town relate to a planning and zoning, not due to high grass and weeds and things like that you have in normal city. And just two examples of the two that you had to put on hold till Mike and I can come back to.
Well,
We're going to examples.
yeah, and you're right, they are good examples, and they're good examples really of the ULDC and I guess, I would hope unintended consequences that have come from a very strict ULDC. Because in addition to the two issues that we're talking about, you have another celebrated case that has spent a lot of your time that rose once again from one of these code enforcement ULDC issues that could have been very easily solved, and some of us up here feel that there was no issue to start with. In Ms. Gonzalez's defense, she's in your office because Russ is over at her house. If you leave her alone, I'm sure she'd leave you alone. So, we as a town bring some of these situations up, and if we were to have a more reasonable way of dealing with things, we wouldn't have as much time. We may say that this isn't a problem in the first place, so we don't have to spend 78 hours on it until we figure out that, it's not really a problem. So, I don't see it on the agenda tonight, but one of the things we were going to bring up was, changes to ULDCs and hopefully lightening up. And if we want government like, we have to practice government like, we can't just preach it. And we need to get there in our ULDCs, and we need to get there in our bureaucracy, because as we build the bureaucracy, add 75,000, we added 75,000 last year to our town management. We're adding 75 this. Since I've been on the council, we've nearly doubled the amount we spent. Not that we're not getting value for our money, I'm not saying that at all. But we need to realize what service level we want to provide. And that's in a lot of things. So I think we need to keep that in mind. And not always look, let's just spend some more money to cover this thing. We ought to maybe see if this is really that important. That's my thoughts.
So, in control, but through contract, it's a different story. So, we have to do the best we can do based upon that scenario.
Well, and I'm not saying it can't be done. I mean, Fleet has done a phenomenal job with the water control district getting reimbursed for damage that was done and all that. And so I know it can be done, and if you're comfortable with it, I'm fine with not putting out for our fee. I mean, Ron?
Mark, I don't care whether you're comfortable with it or not, I just want to know that you're qualified, Nate. But Cleve's done an outstanding job, and I personally think the town and the district working together, I don't see a problem with it.
One other thought, Mr. Mayor, your comment about this is just an added duty. I think in the real world, my perspective is that a lot of the town business that's normal day-to-day will in fact go away temporarily and be put off. It may come back later as a bubble of work that wasn't accomplished. And there's certain things that just won't happen and it won't happen again.
And Vice Mayor, I think one of those services that comes back the quickest usually the planning and zoning stuff, because they have to get permits and sort of do what they've done the problem.
Yeah, so I would expect that this is gonna be the most important thing. I don't expect that we're gonna have maybe a scheduled meeting a week or we have a hurricane. If we're cleaning up, we might be out there on a front end loader rather than in the meeting hall. But I'm sure a lot of different things will happen. And a lot of the things that we would normally be doing won't happen. You know, the town managers.
You won't see me in the suit.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. I take it John wants to speak, so John, go ahead.
One just very short comment. I'm real disappointed to see how long this agreement has been.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, and building on what George said, I have been talking since the previous management company about a list of local contractors, which is exactly what George is referring to now. And that at least gives you something to judge, or when the district can't get the things, which was certainly the case when these came in.
Sure.
You know, based on the dates, when that came in, the district was not capable of giving it to them. And Frank had prioritized it, so that explains why we are on it.
And I think that the only thing is we would have to have some kind of rotational, I mean, because that would be something that I can see would get you in a lot of trouble.
What's done with many state agencies is they have this list and they call 3 people and get telephone quotes from 3 of the contractors for a particular thing, or, you know, say, everybody meet me at 9 o'clock at Google Land, we're gonna look at what needs to be done, you know, and vary the price. So,
Your own procurement code says within between 1,000 and 5,000, you can rely on phone quotes.
Sure.
And this is within that range, and what I was gonna, if you're gonna move forward, you just authorize a not to exceed, and have Mark do it, of course, is gonna, yeah, has the district's number, you call 2 others, and if the district is willing and can do the work, and if it's within that, you'll follow your own code. This is not the amount that typically gets you, I'm sorry.
I do think that what we have here is sort of apples to oranges compared to what the type of work that George was bidding on before.
No, and I agree.
And, you know, and this is, hedging is one thing, when you're cutting stuff to the ground, which was much of what was done, and removing all the debris and trucking it off and getting it off site, that's a totally different thing from just coming with a hedging machine and shooting all of the stuff right there on the ground. They're not even going to have to rake it up.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Is the motion, is the motion to
Motion is to let the water
is the motion fit in this stage, is what's the motion for discussion?
Okay,
So I'd like to, if it be possible, now that we've had a discussion, the motion can be amended or to be more specific, because it was only made for discussion purposes.
okay, I'll amend the motion. I'll make the motion that these road requests that we have, that we go ahead and let the district take care of them.
Or do you want to just authorize it to be done at an amount not to exceed? Because then the district will be one of the 3 people that can be called under our procurement code.
Okay, if that's the best way to do it, then not to exceed $2,000, for the simple fact that the quotes I have here come up to $1,600. So now they've got 2 roads that they need to put quotes on.
That's scope of work that the district, since you're Friday, I'm not using that same scope of the
Yes.
bid.
Yeah.
He said,
Right.
he said that's what the 2,000's for, so for those other 2, he's giving Cleve $400.
It's a not to exceed.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm thinking the other 2 is probably going to be anywhere from $50 to $100, okay?
The only concern I have is we've got a list here for we've complaints. I would love to compare that to the list that Frank and the town put together. Because we all know, I mean, I've had people, you know, call me years ago, my road is terrible, I can't drive on it. And I went out and drove on it an hour later, and it was no different than the other road in Loxahatchee Grove. So, I mean, when I called him back with that, you know, I wanted something done on my road. So I mean, I'm for it. I think we need to maintain these roads. We need to get something going with an interlocal agreement where we can do it. And, you know, we can't be waiting 6 or 8 months for this stuff. You know, that is not good.
I have a quick question for Ron. The ones that are Mike Walker on here, who asked for this? Did Mike just look at those and say, he felt he needed it for, okay. All right. Does that get rid of that big pine tree on?
I would really like to see this become a regular thing that the town management does. I mean, here we are, our short meeting is now, it's 20 minutes after 9. You know, I
We
mean,
spent a half hour on it.
Yeah, that.
yeah,
I
we've
really
spent a
think-
half hour on it with probably $300 worth of people sitting in the audience that we pay. So, you know, we've got a motion and a second. Do we have a second on this?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, moving to,
I think, we brought up a good point, well, especially George brought up a good point. We should start a maintenance program on all the roads also. So in the future, we don't have to, wait for it to get out of hand before, we start doing anything about it. And I think, we should direct the staff to start implement a maintenance program.
especially when we've spent money on a project doing it. But at the same time, you know what, it does bother me. George, you're right. I mean, why wouldn't somebody take a little pride in the road? They finally got their drainage right and stuff. Go in there in a property in front of their house with a weed eater and take care of it, or take that holly out. They can still take it out with a cane knife without much trouble. That's the way Loxahatchee Road was always done. And all of a sudden now we're getting to the point where we're becoming more and more like all these other towns. Feed me,
Yeah.
mow my grass, take care of me, you know, my yard floods, you know, I've got a mosquito that bit me, I mean, come on. We're Loxahatchee grows, I mean, we've got to,
Well, Mary, I think you're absolutely right there, and that's something that is going to come up here, because one of the issues that was brought up in the IGC today was proposed additional grading for all the town roads. And this proposed additional grading is just that, additional grading. It's above and beyond what we've had in the past. And the question is, do we want to make that commitment? Because I heard conversations today about, wouldn't it be nice to have swales on both sides that were mowable? They can't mow my road, and they want swales on both sides of all the town roads now. So you've got to watch where we're going here. Okay? We've got to watch what it is we're looking to get. And, you know, as this, it sounds great, well, who's going to pay for it? And where's the money come from?
projects with ongoing maintenance are going to keep costs us ongoing.
And to make swales, they will. And like, you know, I have mowed my road for 15 years. That is the Loxahatchee way. And that's why there's not peppers crowding my road today, because I have mowed. And if I left it to them, I can guarantee you the peppers would crowd the road. So,
My wife was out cutting the lips off her driveway the other day, so scratch her truck. All right, so it passed. Moving on, we have public comments. Frank Chadwell, hey Mark. And Ms. Gonzalez.
Frank Child, Marcel Boulevard. One serious thing that's going on within the town and district limits is that we have a miscreant stealing signs, the speed hump signs, the yellow delineator signs. Seems to be happening in the area of C Road and Collecting Canal. And down C Road and some of the other roads have been missing signs. They're put up the next day, they're just disappeared, bolts are gone, everything. So if anybody sees that, don't confront them, get a tag number. If you have a camera, take a picture and report to the sheriff's office. They do know about it. That is a felony, taking those signs down because they're traffic control devices. It's the same thing as taking a stop sign down. It's serious stuff. On a lighter note, the Loxahatchee Girls Elementary School is having their carnival this Friday. And please spread the word to come on over, support them. With the budget shortfalls, this is what makes up the end of their year and what helps teachers at the beginning of the next school year go out and get school supplies. And I did volunteer the mayor to go into the dunk tank again this Friday, but this time we're adding ice into the water. Just kidding, we're not doing the dunk tank and all that, but if you can't come out, we would appreciate anybody coming out, and even if you don't play the games or bounces, I know the mayor likes to bounce in the bounce houses, and so does Ron, and all that, and please come on out. Thanks.
Thank you, Frank. Marge. And to let you know, some of you that don't know, 1 year Ryan and I did our time in the dunk tank. And Ron, yeah, that's right, the three of us.
March Herzog, A Road. I agree with the maintenance program for the canals that have been cleared. So often, they do major work on clearing the Brazilian pepper, like North D Road. And if they don't maintain that in 4 or 5 years, you're gonna have the same problem, and we're gonna have the same expense all over again. And that has been an issue with me since I moved here in '95, because I have historically seen major projects where they have gone ahead and cleared canals, and now we're back to the same mess that we had back in '95, where canals are impassable. So if you clear them, you need to have a process for maintaining them. It only stands to reason. Okay, the next LGLA meeting, which is not this Thursday, but next Thursday, will be the candidates forum for the seat 1 popular vote for the water control district. You'll have a chance to meet Roy Parks and Robert Snowball. And we have Bill Lauda as our moderator. So he has a committee that is coming up with questions to be asked. So LGLA is totally removed from it. The committee is coming up with the questions. Also, I wanted to know what is the status on the town hall and the rental and so forth that wasn't covered under management report. Are you moving forward with rental? Are you moving forward with purchase? Where are we?
You're asking about the town facilities? Yeah, I was talking to the yeah, we're moving forward every day. I've talked to a couple of realtors. I'm getting those going. I'm trying to find what might be a possible option for us. But, you know, that's a day-by-day process. I'm not going to have the magic answer yet. But hopefully soon.
Okay, so we're looking for our own facility?
For our own, looking to find space. If a realtor wants to come and make me an offer that I think works and I take the town council to their approval, I'll do that too. I'm not putting on anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the situation where we are now, you still have your contract, which is X number of years for X number of rooms for X value, correct?
That's right. Yeah, and now our rent will actually go back to our original rent because of that. So the next payment we will make is back to the $800.
So have we lost 2 rooms or 1 room?
But it didn't matter, better, we lost one, we went back to, they figured it back to the $800.
Okay. Thank you for the update.
Okay. Deus Gonzalez, and then I've got Ian Parker.
Thais Gonzalez, 13090 Raymond Drive. I'd like to say that I also agree with the maintenance of the edging and all that, the roads and everything. I don't want anybody doing my backyard or my front yard. But I also wanted to mention that there's some properties, like on my road, Raymond Drive, it's vacant, it's land only, and everything is like falling on top of the road. So, you know, I cannot go and fix it, nobody can, nobody is there. So, I mean, those, and I think that everybody should be responsible for keeping, you know, the front of the property nice and clean and neat. But also, you know, there's some things that need to be done right all the time.
Okay.
So, that's it.
Thank you. Ian?
And being Pam Parker and being collecting here. I think that's one of the things, even though it wasn't on the agenda, and that's my biggest thing. That's why we're here. We should have been out of here 45 minutes ago, if not an hour ago. This is going to have to stop, you guys adding stuff. I mean, it was not something that couldn't have waited, or you could have brought it up some other time. So kindly, if you don't like to stay this late, I don't like to stay this late. I'm glad you did bring it up, though, about doing something about cleaning it up, because when we moved out here, we didn't have that problem. I know, it just seems like it's just getting more and more and more. All right, everybody have a good night.
Thank you. All right, Mike? Okay.
No.
Council members, Tom?
I'll just echo what Ann said. Everybody have a good night.
John?
Same thing, everybody have a good night, thank you for coming.
Ryan?
Well, thanks for coming, go Heat, and, good night.
Jim?
I'd also like everybody, thank everybody for coming, and, but I'd also like to comment on the fact that if there's something that this council, any council member wants to add to the agenda that they think needs to be discussed, the council decided whether it goes on or not, and we all agreed to do that, so those things have to come up, they're gonna be coming up. And so we spend a lot of time, we spend more time on this concept than we did the real problem or the request. So the concept, I think, is something we need to discuss. So we kind of get it flushed out and say, all right, let's talk about it another time. And, but I think we need to bring these things that are gonna come up. And I think we're all considerate. If we get out of here at 9:30, which is another minute. This is early, this is a short meeting.
That's right.
Thank you.
And thank you all for coming, and have a good night. Motion adjourned.
Left in the paper.
We had a meeting with somebody, so.
Well, yeah, since you know about the new car, no, I can't, I've been thinking about you because I gotta do it all free again, so, yeah.
Ron, paper on for the next desk. Remember when they was gonna get paper on it? They got it.
Last night.
Somebody might not. It wouldn't take it to be funny.
Be careful going on. You owe me one, Ron.
That's what we did.
Oh, that's why I take two of them. Jason, you have to give them one
I think we have to get it in tomorrow.
I would pay the money for that. Yeah. I don't know. So you guys ever get any sorted out? but you still can't record.
No, it's not really flooded, it's about it's gonna happen. No, and it's so dead.
You got 28, I mean, come on. You can't take that away. Coach says you can, if a coach says you can, but I know there's certain limitations that work. You can't, you can't go ahead and put cut
You look either tired to me or you've been out in the sun.
I've been, doing a lot of yard work.
No, I and what you can do. That's good, that's what you had to work out with his wife, and then the wife left, and he came in. I heard it.
Only I got lucky when I drove to Miami, we didn't play.
Yeah, I went down last night, they did not do well.
I hope you're right.
I think you realize.
Somebody coming over there, just walking out in the dark by yourself? Make sure you open your door when you do. Don't be out there by yourself.
Yeah, go actually, maybe lost, 3 hours.
Yeah, there's a couple of them, they have names, we can do it as a pack by the name. Reputation is 20.
Oh, yeah, George, I'm not gonna beat that. You don't have to win it. You gotta. Well, I'll start with that, we have on the list, but then we're gonna expand it, so. We start with, I want that. Yeah, because they wanna know ahead of time. That's a good point, because, you know, you gotta realize, we have to notify them. I got talking in there, right? All right.
All right,
Thanks, Mike.
I'll see you guys.
Have a good night.
Good night. See you in a month, right? Safe travels.
Oh, we get to the.
What'd you say, Bill?
I just have for telling me.
We'll have some.
Hi, I'm not talking to you. I'm just kidding, yeah, I'm just kidding.
See you later, Lauren.
No, you.
Ryan?
I know, I don't mean to do that, kid, I'm sorry.
I think it's sort of.
That's your kill on me.
Hello, Tokyo. Hey, look at that, we're still taping.